In the darkest night, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey y'all, how you doing? Sorry about that. Oh my gosh, I thought I was only a couple minutes late and it's already like 11 after. Oh, well, thanks for landing on Surviving Together. This is a safe space for sexual assault survivors and other trauma survivors to connect with each other and share on their healing journey and mine. Never feel obligated to share, not a prerequisite. Also, I want to welcome all of those of you who may be here who are just supporting survivors or want to learn more about different types of trauma and the topics that are related to that. And in regards to that, we are going to be talking about online predators today. It's a very important topic, and I am so glad that you guys are stopping by. I'm going to chat just for a few minutes to give a few more people a chance to join the chat before we dive right into the topic. I do want to, let's see if I can get this right today, because I just did this one. Here we go. This might be a difficult one for some people, okay? And so put the trigger warning up, probably leave it up for most of the show, and protect your mental health. If you need to leave, do so. Don't feel obligated to stay here at all. You come first, protect yourself, all right? So let's see who all do we have today. I gotta sit up taller. My chin's gonna be right in that banner. Who's here today? Crystal is here, and she's got some awesome news. I'm so excited for her. She is finally going to be moving into her apartment. There's no exact date soon, but she's got a realtor and her trailer, and everything is coming together for her in the beginning of 2025, and I could not be happier and more excited. That has got to feel excellent, Crystal. And the fact that you have found a realtor who you like and who seems to understand you, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. And by reading all the comments, I know everybody else is too. Shannon, oh, thank you for being here, my mod. I only have a few of them. If anyone is interested in being a mod, I don't really need a whole lot of them, but I never know kind of who's going to be here on what night. So email me, survivingtogether at survivingtogether, sass@gmail.com. It is in the channel description as well as should be in all of the video descriptions as well. Who else do we have here? Kermel, it's great to see you. Thank you for staying up and seeing us. Tommy, wonderful. Oh, that reminds me, I have to Stigs. Here we go. See? Because you know what? Talking, these lips get dry, you know? I understand it. I got the water on standby and got my lip balm right here. So anytime I need to use it, Stigs, I think of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for stopping by. I know you've got your wind down later on. Shannon has shared Tommy's channel down there, and you can throw up anybody else's channel who happens to pop by. please check them out, support them if you like what they do. Speaking of which, if you like what I do here, please hit the like button. If you don't like it, just hit the dislike button. But either one, it's helpful. I really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate that as well. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. It's a personal goal of mine. One, it's halfway to that 1,000, which is the monetization. Doesn't mean a whole lot for me because I don't think YouTube's going to monetize many of my videos just because of the content that we talk about, and that's okay. But it's like, it's a goal, so it's not about the money, it's about that goal that I'm hitting. 500 allows you to do super stickers. 30% of it goes to YouTube anyway, though, so if you wanted to donate and support the channel, much prefer that you do it directly through the Cash App or the PayPal, just because it's we're not taking such a big cut. But anything is up to you. I will probably throw those up later on, and so you have those, but they also are in all the video descriptions. Who else do we have? Delilah, welcome. I'm glad you stopped by tonight. Thindu, thank you for stopping by. I'm glad you got the time right. How was dinner? Did you use the balsamic vinegar? Thindu had a live earlier today, and we were talking about this. Let's see, did I miss anybody? I think I got everyone who's here right now, at least who's showing up in the chat. Shannon says, Tommy, there's an idea for merchandise. Stig's chapstick. There you go. You can put Tommy Stig's Social Club as a wraparound on it. All right, I think we've got everybody today. I know people will probably be waiting to come in. Gypsy Daisy, oh my gosh, how are you? So glad you're here. It's been so long since I've seen you. I hope you're doing all right. I hope you're doing well. I know we've probably got some lurkers out there, and that's totally fine. I don't care if you join the chat or if you're just lurking, but please take care of yourself, okay? I really want everyone to make sure that that they're safe today. It's a difficult topic, but I think one that is so important. Whether you have an experience, whether you're online dating as an adult, or whether you have kids of your own, or whether you have nieces or nephews or cousins or younger sisters, or seriously, so it's anybody that you know, right? This information could really help either yourself or help them. So tonight we are talking about online predators, and we're going to talk about what kind of behaviors that they do. What are some red flags that you can look for in the behaviors of either the kids or the adults that you know who might be a victim to an online predator? Because that's a way of really being able to help somebody and save them from an awful situation. And we're going to talk about protective measures. But first of all, let me welcome Janet. How you doing, Janet? I'm so glad you're here. I know this kind of digs into your dinner prep time and everything, so it's always a wonderful thing to have you here on a Wednesday night. So, who can be an online predator? Anyone. Absolutely anyone. It's just we talk about, who can be an SA abuser? Anyone. Men, women, children. Generally, you're going to find it's going to be older children, 12 or over, in regards to what we're going to be talking about tonight. Hi, Nick. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Where do you meet these predators online? Anywhere that there's electronic communication where you can communicate one-on-one. So that is going to be dating apps, any of your social media platforms. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I think you can talk to each other on. Can you talk to each other on TikTok? I honestly don't know because I don't use it. So I don't know much about TikTok at all. And gaming. It's a big one. It's a huge one, especially for kids. But anywhere that you can meet somebody and talk to somebody, there's a potential there for danger. And education, you're gonna hear this so much throughout this live, is that education is the key. The more you know, the more you can protect yourself, and you can protect those that you care about. Hi, Body Illusion. How you doing? I'm so glad you're here. Excuse me. Um, excuse me. Yes, my head is feeling better. Thank you. I had to take a pill and take a nap, and then I woke up and saw that it was snowing outside and went, that's why I woke up with a headache this morning. And a human barometer. Hey, Deborah, how are you? I almost missed you because your name was right next to Delilah's. Vlad says I don't use anything but YouTube. And yeah, honestly, me too. I have an Instagram account, but my son set it up when Instagram was coming up because that was more of his thing when he was younger. They'd kind of already moved on from YouTube, and then the TikTok world came. I have my notes down here, so if you see me looking down occasionally, I don't do the notes online. I have my other screen over here, but honestly, it's not hooked up. I don't ever use it anymore, but I should. Usually I'm using my laptop, so I'm going to try and prop this up just a little bit so I'm not looking down totally at everything. I have a couple of videos that I'm going to play throughout this that I think are really important. First off, though, I'm going to play you what has to be the creepiest PSA for online predators that I have found. The reason that I am sharing this with you up front, and I'm telling you right away, it's and it was meant to be creepy. But this is kind of what we think about when we think about online predators in terms of kids. But it's not always the case. And so we're going to talk more about that. Remember, anyone can be an online predator. And we're going to talk more about what that looks like as we go along. But let me share this with you. It is only, I think, like 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, something like that. But I want to present this to you. All right, here we go. I'm going to say one more time, it's creepy. It's 30 seconds long. Here we go. Let me make sure okay. I tend to listen to things on fast speed, and not everyone does that.
One for a rainbow, one for Amanda.
Who you play with, sweetie?
Amanda.
Oh, who are you?
I'm Amanda. I'm 6, and I love unicorns.
Sexual predators are seeking kids online.
We don't know Amanda.
Learn how to report abuse at end-violence.org.
Okay, if that was not the creepiest PSA you've ever seen, I don't know what is, and send me whatever you find is creepiest. Good, at least somebody agrees with me. Yeah, but this is often what we think about with online predators, what we think about in predators in general. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about is sexual predation. And it's not always that. There can be just simply emotional predators, and people just manipulate, and because they like it, they have fun with it. It's fun to mess with people's emotions for them and to get them to do what they want. So it's not always sexual gratification. It's not always the sexual violence. It's not always the end game for these people. But most often is going to be their, first and foremost. Yeah, Shannon says there's emotional and monetary predators. Exactly. And, the monetary gifting, it does go both ways. Somebody can be preying on you, especially for adults, could be preying on preying on you in hopes of getting money out of you, whether that's online or once they meet you in person. Yep, people masquerading as someone else. And we're going to talk about, when we get to talking about protective measures, what can you do to ensure that the person you're talking about is who they say they are? There are a few ways. There's some tricks that you can do. And I have, honestly, I have learned this, and a lot of what I'm going to be talking to you about, I've learned through personal experience with online dating. I started dating in the beginning of 2023. So just over a year ago. It was March of 2023. No, 2024. Oh my God, how long have I been dating? No, 50 and I'm 52. Holy crap, I've been doing this for 2 years and I still have nothing to show for it. Shan says online dating scares me. Yeah, I learned a lot that first year. I learned a lot. And, you know, I am going to be focusing a lot on kids with this, but most of what we're going to talk about does translate into adult relationships. I have talked about child grooming versus adult grooming. I've done two separate lives in regards to that. But if there is interest in terms of talking more specifically and targeted with adult online predation, please let me know. And I'm specifically talking about this more in the romantic sense. We're going to be talking on Saturday about online relationships in general. And that can be, we're not going to be talking with the romantic sense there. We're going to be talking platonic friendships, connections that you make like this through the internet, through YouTube, that can stay online, or you can be friends offline. And how do we navigate that? How do we make sure that people are who they say they are? Again, how do you set your boundaries in terms of making sure that your emotions, you know, are protected? So that's going to be Saturday. But if there is interest, please put in the comment section if you guys would like a separate adult online predators live, and we can do a whole section on that too. But yeah, I mean, the online connection is real, right? And it's a great, it's wonderful that it connects people from all over the world. Kermel's a perfect example. You know, he's here from Europe, and we have people from Australia, and it's in Canada and Mexico, all over Europe. It's just amazing. And I would never have met these people were it not for YouTube and for this channel and for the other channels that I interact with you guys with. Don Miku, so happy to see you. Seventh, oh, I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're doing okay. Hugs, big hugs to you, Seventh. I am just, sorry guys, I'm just going to, just checking back in the chat here. No, not naive, Delilah. It's if it's something that you've never had to deal with, particularly for the older generations that didn't have kids that grew up with devices in their hands. You know, I was an older mom. I was that next generation above, older than most of my my son's friends, moms and dads. And so I came from a little bit more of an old school, kind of that between total old school tradition and do whatever you want. That seems to be a little more prevalent now. So part of what I have to say, you can take it with a grain of salt, and it's going to have to work within your parenting, you know, guidelines, or your grandparenting guidelines. Somebody's saying ravishing red, and I think you mean body illusion, because I don't see red in here unless I missed her. So nope, must be talking about her. But somebody says Deaudre Gore. Oh, there you are. Hey, Deaudre. There's another one from originally from South Africa. Whoa, Goodness gracious. I'm just having issues. I'm still a little bit groggy from my medication, guys. Please forgive me. Doing my best tonight. I'm probably going to take another pill once I get done with this, a migraine pill. And then we're going to be going to bed. But so glad to see you all here. Let's talk. Body is ravishing red. Okay, good. I got that one right. Woohoo! So let's talk about some predator behaviors. In general, we're talking about grooming, and this is how it starts. Whether it's a longer grooming journey with them, or whether it's a love bombing situation, it can be both. But it's always going to be based on manipulation, smoke and mirrors, and very little truth. Misha? Oh, Ned, hey, there you are. Glad to see you. How are you doing tonight? One of the first things that I think you will notice with an online predator is this ability of them to connect to whoever their target victim is. And they're going to do this through initially lots of flattery. I mean, who doesn't like to be complimented? It makes you feel good. It's an instant dopamine, rush. Your body says, "Oh, I love your hair tonight." And I'm like, it just, we all want that. And it feels good when we get it. And they know that. Connecting on your level. They're going to find things that you guys have in common, because they need to be able to connect with you and keep you drawn in. And how are they going to do that? They're going to speak to what interests you. I didn't put these in order. That's why I'm trying to decide what to talk about next. But requesting personal information. And keep in mind that an online predator, when they're targeting a victim, they could be looking to get you to a place, whether it's meeting in person or getting you to an emotional place within a day or two, or they could take months and months with this. Guarantee you are not their only victim that they're targeting at that moment. They've probably got several that they're grooming at the same time. And it's just, who's going to give me what I need first? But it doesn't have to be this long drawn out process. Grooming kind of sounds like it is, right? But it can happen very quickly. It depends on what the predator's wants are and how responsive their victim is. And I am going to use victim in this conversation, because once you get past it and you're no longer in contact with the victim, that's when I consider you a survivor. But as long as they're targeting and you're an active target, you're a victim in my book. So just a good way of, it's just, for me, it's a good way of thinking about that. Yeah, it is. I mean, Delilah says it's really easy to share too much on YouTube. And it is, because what do you talk about? You talk about yourself. And unless you are a predator, or unless you are somebody who is going to portray a fake image, you're going to talk about yourself. I mean, when you try and write something, what do they say? Write what you know. If someone was to listen to my lives or all my videos from beginning to now, I'm sure that they could piece together exactly who I am, where I live. All they got to do is really plug my name in, and all the information's going to pop up on Spokio anyway. So it does become a matter of, how do you protect yourself? And you protect yourself through education, through knowing what to look for. So revealing too much information, personal information, initially when you're having one-on-one conversations with somebody, if they're constantly asking you very personal questions, where do you live and what's your parental situation or what's your living situation, asking you about your past love life, asking about your sexual experiences. And that gets into talking about sex. Like I said, very often this is going to be a goal of the predators. And so, especially when it comes to children, talking to them about sex, about topics surrounding sex, depending on the age of the child, they're going to talk little by little, getting that kid used to talking about this, right? Getting them interested. And in the video that I showed, the creepy video, that's how I'm going to refer to it from now on, the person looks to be about 6 years old or so, the little girl, right? The biggest target audience right now online for predators, I'm sorry, it sounds like ice cubes falling outside my house and I don't know why, is going to be that tween through 16, so like 12 to 16 type of age range. I have found, at least in what I've been looking at, is when it comes to the younger kids, particularly because of their ability to communicate through text, it's going to be more of an in-person thing. So the online thing, I think, any kid, any age can be a victim and can be a target. However, I know that I did start worrying more about the online once my son was a little bit older. Now, take that with what I said, though, with gaming platforms. Kids very young are on gaming platforms, and depending on how young the child is and whether or not they can communicate only through text or whether or not they have a headset and they can actually talk is going to depend on the predator, targeting that child. If they can talk and they don't have to rely on their typing skills and their vocabulary, they're going to be more vulnerable. I'm going to mix in protective measures just because I can't help it. That's how my brain goes as I'm talking about this. When my kid was younger, I didn't put parental controls on all the electronic devices. It was something that I felt personally with my child, I felt wasn't necessary. I felt the education and some other protective measures were more effective. That's up to you, though. Some people swear by them and they have parental controls on, the TV, the phones, the tablets, any electronic device that there happens to be in the house, there's parental controls on it. And that's totally up to you and your individual preferences and your parenting style. And I'm not here to tell you, one is right and one is wrong. I'm just telling you in regards to me, what worked for me. So when he initially started gaming online, there was no chat. It was, you could game online, but you were playing games that it was just you, or if there were other people, it was a team type of thing. There was no chat. And I pop down every once in a while just to kind of look at his screen and go, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Because I used to sit there and watch him play certain games, Skyrim and Minecraft, Roblox. But anywhere that there is an option for an online chat, whether it is like this or whether it's verbal where you can talk back and forth, there's a vulnerability there. So when he got a little bit older, we allowed the chat, but we kept the voice off. There was no voice. And initially, and he wasn't even interested because he's like, it's just everybody swearing and yelling at each other. And it was, more of a headache. Well, of course, as he got a little bit older, it was more fun to interact verbally with everybody. And so we had additional education that needed to happen and some additional controls that we needed to put in place through that education to protect him. So he knew how to protect himself, because part of this is about us knowing this, but the knowledge needs to get from us to whoever else needs it, whether that's another adult friend or cousin or aunt or uncle or whoever. Especially if you've got people who are a little bit older who've never done online anything or online dating in their life, please make sure that they have got the information to protect themselves and that they know what to look for. And kids, you got to talk to them, and you got to talk to them more than once. It's not a one and done. It's not like, people used to do for sex ed. I don't know about you guys, but my mom told me about sex one time and that was it. I mean, she left the door open. Hey, if you ever want to talk, but I don't know too many kids who just decided to go, hey, Mom, could you tell me about what oral sex is like? It's not something that most people are going to then bring up to their parents. It's still important for parents to talk to their kids about, right? But often it feels like a one-way street. But believe me, from having a kid who's now grown, they do listen. They listen to us so much. They listen more than we know. It's unbelievable. Let me say hi to Nico. Hey, how you doing? Getting ready to sleep school tomorrow. All right. Definitely you can do replay crew. We'll forgive you. All right. Sleep in school is more important. Teresa, I'm glad you're here. How are you doing? Yes. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, just having, gone through it and, with my child. He's always going to be my child. Hello, Amanda Travis. You are a new one to me. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our SAS community. We call it Sassy. I love it. So what else? Any sort of urgency or pressure. So if somebody is looking to meet right away or really wants you to do something, is trying to pressure you into giving you pictures or giving you information, really trying to get, are your parents going to be home? What are they like? How much control do they have, over you? What's your living situation? Anytime that there's that sense of urgency, I mean, how do scammers work, right? A lot of times it's, you got to do this right now because your social security number is in jeopardy, or you got a billing for $500 and it's going to hit your card today unless you call the bank, and, giving you that sense of urgency and creating that sense of stress inside yourself that, you need to do this right now. And it can come right away, but often it comes a little bit later when they've established that emotional connection with you. And you feel like, well, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose this person. I'm going to lose that connection. And again, I'm going to call it real life and online life, just for the sake of being able to separate the two so you know what I'm talking about. But the people who are most vulnerable in real life are going to be the most vulnerable in online life. So it's anyone who is isolated, who doesn't have a whole lot of friends, who has a lower self-esteem. And that's part and parcel with every tween and teen that I have met. It just is, regardless of their upbringing. They could have the best parents in the world and the most wonderful support system. And I have yet to meet a middle schooler, maybe one or two, with a really high confidence level. They're far and few between. It's a difficult age to be with. You're finding yourself, you're figuring out who you are. And when somebody can emotionally connect with you, we're going to talk about this on Saturday as well, you're much more likely to get sucked in because you're invested. And when you're invested, you want to see something succeed. Hi, Polly. How are you doing? Big hugs to you, Polly. Big hugs. David, hi. Hello, love. How you doing? Welcome to my bestie. hope you're doing well. And I don't know how much snow you're getting, but we are definitely getting the snow here today. I don't think we're supposed to get a whole lot, but certainly feeling it. I missed your... Yeah, I think you're going to have to explain sati. I can kind of guess from your context, but definitely want to have you give your definition of that. Just something that was said here in the chat. This next one, inconsistent info, I think it's going to be more obvious to the adults just because we are adults. We've had a little bit more life experience, and but as kids too, pay attention to this. Have they told you that blue is your favorite color, their favorite color, and later on they say it's yellow? Did they say they live in one city and then they're talking about another? Did they say they graduated high school in 1990, but yet they're saying they're 38 years old? So all of the information that you learn about somebody, when you put it together, does it make sense? And really paying attention to those details, because a lot of times, when we're getting in this emotional connection, when we're getting sucked in, and I use that in the best sense of the word initially, when we're getting sucked in with this, when we're developing that emotional connection, and when we feel like we have somebody who's, oh my gosh, this person really understands me, you might not pay attention to those little details as much. But it's really crucial that we do, because that's how you're going to be able to piece together the whole picture of a person, right? When you're just talking online, particularly if you don't have a picture like this that you're seeing. And most often, you're not going to. You're going to have a still picture or an avatar, or just, no picture at all. So when you don't have that sort of visual verification, you have to look for the other clues to be able to piece together that this person is who they say they are. Chilly but windy. Yes, definitely here as well. Took a little video of my cat. I was standing out on the porch because they acted like they wanted to go out. And then they just looked at me and were like pawing at the window. Like, what are you doing out there, Mom? It's so darn cold. Get in here, get in here. It was hilarious. Any attempts to isolate or to keep something a secret, isolating the relationship, isolating you from your other friends or family, be careful about that. Why keep it a secret? Now, particularly as an adult, this is important. And when we get involved with somebody, if we're building that emotional connection, it can be real easy to kind of forget about our friends and family, right? But there's a difference between isolating yourself, pushing friends and family away in favor of the person that you're looking at, or that you're sucked into, and doing it because they're asking you to. What's their behavior? How did they start? Does it change over time? Predators often are going to get more manipulative, more possessive as time goes by, because they're trying to get you totally hooked. They want you involved with them and only them. And their goal is to make you feel like the only one, and to feel like the best one. And I have a video I'm going to play here in a minute about how that looks, how that looks for a young person. And I'm specifically talking about that kind of 16 and under. And Carmel, you're 100% right, because the teens, their brains are still developing. You're still developing until they're 25, the frontal lobe, right? I think it's 22 or 23 in women and 25 in men. But the impulse control, that executive function part of our brain that can override any of our impulsive behaviors, isn't totally developed. And so, again, educating the kids on what to look for is going to be their best protective measure, more so than you trying to shield them from whatever is online by not allowing them access to this or that or the other thing. Because maybe you've got all of that in place on your own home devices. But guess what? They're not always home. They're at school. Friends have devices. Do they go over to friends' houses ever? Do they sleep over there ever? There's access. Library. Go to the library and get on YouTube and chat, or log into their Instagram account, or whatever it is. There are ways around it, and the kids are smart. And the predators are even smarter. And so if the kid themselves doesn't know how to get around it, I guarantee you the predator does. And they'll tell them exactly how to do it. Sorry, guys. My son's home and I can hear all the music. It just went away. Woo. This one, particularly for adults that I've noticed, if you are speaking online on one platform, if they request to go off platform to use a different platform, and particularly I've noticed like WhatsApp, Snapchat, Telegram, or personal text, they're more private. And literally, I have had a conversation of like, hi, how are you? The person's like, love your photos. Oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. Hey, do you want to chat? Text me. Here's my number. Or here's my WhatsApp. Let's talk offline. And anytime that is happening within the first day or two of me meeting somebody, I'm like, no, check, next. Swipe right or left, or whichever way you go with that. I forget. It's been so long. I was on Tinder for a brief period of time, and wow, what a wasteland. Except for you, bestie. So I want to play you a short video. I think maybe it's about a minute long, with a kid talking about this. It's a young adult, and she looks to be maybe 12, 14, somewhere in that area. And this really gets my point across in terms of what I'm talking about here. Oop, I gotta share screen first. Uh-oh. Okay, let's play this. Let me make sure that I have it set at the right speed.
Meeting a teen girl online is actually pretty easy. You can go into any chat room and just start talking. Most of the girls are usually so insecure and desperate for
Attention from older guys is totally flattering. They're so much more mature and understanding than the guys my
Age actually works to my advantage. They like to brag to their friends that they're dating an older guy, so I just play along and pretend I'm really
interested in the same things I am. You can talk forever and really get to know someone without worrying about looks or whatever. That's the best thing about
Chatting seems unthreatening to them, so they lower their guard. After a while, I start talking about how we're soulmates and how lucky we are to have found each other.
Other people don't understand. I know what I'm doing. If you really care about each other, there's nothing wrong with
Meeting them is the goal. Once I get them out of their house, well, that's when things get really interesting.
Online predators know what they're doing. Do you?
Hey, Flix, how you doing? Glad you're here tonight. Oh, excuse me. So, yeah, that is such a typical teenage response, especially for girls, because remember, they do mature, most of them, faster than boys. It's just science, right? I know I always dated older people because talking to guys my age seemed just incredibly boring, and they weren't interested in the same things I was interested. So I always dated people older. Now, granted, I mean, I was only going, a couple years older, 3 years older, whatever, but there is that sense. Some guy who's 18 or 20 and you're 12 and they think that you're, something. Wow. Especially as you're just coming into your sexual awakening, understanding those feelings, all those hormones are just getting going. You have no idea what to do with any of them. Hopefully, you have not had any sexual experiences at that point. And for anyone who was SA'd as a child, they're even more vulnerable because it's either, well, this is just how it is. This is how you interact with people. This is how you show love. All of that gets twisted in our minds. And you can become very promiscuous because of it. Yes, Chris Hansen and To Catch a Predator. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy shows up and goes, "What? I was just here to watch a movie with condoms and KY jelly." Okay, let's try again, dude. Right? I mean, who in the world's going to believe you? Didn't it end because they had a really ticky situation one time? I forget why, but didn't it go off the air because of something like that? Not 100% sure. So that video really speaks to a lot of those predator behaviors that we just went over. And so what are you going to look for as red flags in the victim? Can you tell that somebody is being targeted by an online predator? Kinda. There are indicators. There are indicators of grooming. And one of the biggest ones is going to be changes in the victim's behavior. Has their mood changed? Are they more anxious than normal? Are they more depressed than normal? Are they happier than normal? Without explanation, without an explanation that you can get out of them. Are they taking better care of their appearance? Or the opposite, have they stopped caring about their appearance altogether? Have they withdrawn from their friends or their families? Are they spending more time in their room? Are they spending more time just talking with one particular person? Are they spending more time talking about one particular person? Are they secretive about that relationship? Are they secretive about what they're doing in their room or about their online activities? If you don't have controls, are they really defensive if you ask to see what they're doing? Now, with teens, this is going to be part and parcel of being a teen. I mean, just in general, they're going to be protective of their privacy. So take each of these with a grain of salt. It's when these flags start to add up and you're seeing multiples of these behaviors that you put you put on your concern hat and say, okay, I think there may be something I really need to address here. But not any one of these is going to be the red flag and say, yep, they're in trouble, right? Kamal, you're right. And that's why I say most of what I'm talking about, it applies to kids just as much as it applies to adults. It just looks a little bit different in adults. And that's why when I did the kids versus adult online grooming, I separated them. You're going to see a lot more love bombing, I think, with the adults, where there is this initial gift giving. And so not only the compliments, but the gift giving, the wanting to spend time with you online, or whether that's pushing to meet you in person and spend time with you. And then the manipulation, the withdrawing back. And then there's going to be the manipulative tactics, the gaslighting. And it's really important, and I'm not going to go over, all manipulative tactics or gaslighting tactics or signs of a narcissist or anything, today. That's a conversation that definitely can have its own live. But as a parent, as a friend, as a relative, it's really important that we understand manipulative tactics, that we understand what gaslighting is and how it's done, so that we can recognize it. And it's really hard when you're in it to recognize it. And this is where paying attention to your kid, to your friend, and seeing the changes in their behavior, because there will be, is so much more important. Because how many of us have been in a relationship and we've gotten out of it and went, oh my gosh, I couldn't see the forest through the trees until the end. Somebody tried to warn me about him, but I thought, no, he's too nice. They can't, he's not like that. Oh, no apologies. No apologies, Carmel. Yeah, I did a live, actually I did two separate ones on kid grooming, and then I did a live on adult grooming, and I also did a separate live on love bombing. And so there's a lot of crossover between them, and all of it comes into play here when we're talking about online predators. So what are some of our other things that could be red flags that somebody is being victimized or is a target of an online predator? Are they going out more than they used to? Are they being vague about where they're going, who they're spending time with? Are they requesting to sleep over at friends' houses more? All of it can be excuses to be doing something else other than what they're telling you that they're doing. Now, how you choose to keep track of your kids is totally up to you. I know that people have the GPS activated on the car. People have the GPS or some other way. I think this is particularly with Apple, other than GPS, to track phones. Some people even make sure that the kids have like an Apple tracker or whatever the equivalent is of an Android tracker nowadays. Honestly, about a year ago, I went and visited some people, and we were just sitting around at the community pool talking with just other people who were around, and lots of parents were there because their kids are, here in the pool. And I'll be darned, were they surprised when they found out I did not have an Apple tag sewn into my child's backpack. They were like, what? You don't? Well, what if they get taken? You won't know who they are. And believe me, that is a concern, and it always was a concern in the back of my mind. And whether you choose to do that, again, up to you, and it's up to your parenting style. I didn't want to do that because I wanted to build the trust with my child. I always told them, you break my trust once, you're really not going to like what it looks like then, because I'm going to have to keep more tabs on you. Whether that's checking in with you, whether that's actually checking your devices and looking at your search history and things like that, depending on what what piece of the trust was broken or how the trust was broken. So, I mean, that's how I always chose to educate, to talk to my kid. He'd get tired of it. I mean, it'd be every day. He'd be talking about a friend who did something or talked to something. I'm like, that potentially could be a bad situation if you don't watch out for A, B, C, X, Y, or D. Oh my God, we've lost half our viewers in the time that I've been on. Oh, I love you all. I love you all for even just stopping in and saying hi. I know it's not a subject that everybody wants to stay with, and that's totally okay. I'm just laughing at it. Polly, I didn't even see your thing, and that wasn't even related to you. But hugs and love. Yeah, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and comment after the show. I really would appreciate it. And that is true. And Crystal, this is one thing that I thought about is, okay, so I sew a tracker into his backpack. The predator takes the kid and leaves the backpack. I mean, I'm not sewing it into all of his stuff. Now, some people have found a way, they put something in the shoe, but eesh, how uncomfortable. I mean, because you'd have to put it like under the sole or whatever. I mean, if I was ever meeting somebody that I was really concerned about, or if just you're just starting online dating and you're meeting somebody for the first time in person, and that can be very, very nerve-wracking, depending on how well you've gotten to know them. And even if you think you know them pretty well, right? Predators are excellent maskers. They will not drop that mask until they feel like they have you in their control. They've got a good grip on you. And even then, that mask slips so slowly that's how we don't notice it. So I definitely encourage anybody who's going online dating, if having a tracker on you makes you feel safer, 100% do it. I always let my kid know exactly where I was going to be and who I was going to be with, or at least who I thought I was going to be with, right? And I also always made sure that there was another adult, a friend of mine who knew. Now, most of my friends are in other cities, but it didn't matter. Somebody else knew. And I always checked in with them when I got home. They may not have been awake, but I was always going to send them a text or give them a phone call saying, I'm back. I'm back. I'm okay. Everything's fine. And they knew that if, by morning they hadn't gotten anything from me, they were to check in with me. And if I was nowhere to be found, well, obviously, warning, danger, Will Roger. Okay, I got to put this up. Carmel says some people over here chip their children. And this is something that I've heard that is on the rise. And it scares the living daylights out of me. I know that there have been pushes by some governments to chip kids, you microchip kids, just like you do your pets. They can have their health information on there. You know, there's an accident. All they got to do is scan the back of the kid's neck, and then they've got all their health information. They know if they're diabetic. They know if they're epileptic, whatever the situation is. But to me, anything that's electronic can be hacked. I don't know if hacking just a microchip, like a tracker microchip, if that can do anything, or how, you know, I have no idea how you would, but I'm definitely on the I don't want anything in my body that I haven't put there myself, that I've wanted to put there. That's why, I mean, what you see is what you get. This is not blonde highlight streaks. This is natural white. This is where I'm going white, right? And I don't even, I had my belly pierced for my 30th birthday. That's the only piercing that I had. Since took it out when I got pregnant because it looked a little stupid. Of course I took it out. I just remember my kid asked me one time, why'd you take your belly piercing? I said, you? Can you imagine my belly this big and a piercing hanging out, a little barbell hanging out? How incredibly dumb would that look? Oh my gosh. And Chris, you're right. You know, shoes, clothes, you know, everything can be left behind. And you know, but we do the best we can with the technology that we have at, you know, on hand at the time. And parents have to do what they feel is best. You know, I can't tell you what is best other than education, talking to your kids, talking to your friends. Share this video with anybody who you know who dates online, who meets people online, and particularly any kid that you have, any child that you know. Make sure that you're talking to them. Make sure their parents are talking to them. It is so, so important. And it's not a subject that's easy to talk about. I was just speaking to a colleague last night, and a fellow law colleague, but he has a tween. Tween? No, maybe just be a teen. I think 13, 14 maybe. God, time flies. And we were talking about pornography. And I was educating him about what pornography and the exposure of pornography does to kids and does to their brain chemistry. And the younger the exposure and the more frequent the exposure, the more damage that can occur. And he was telling me about, he's in private practice, so he deals, you know, a lot with the public and with people who come to him, have gotten in trouble for various things, and how they view sex, how they view relationships. And, you know, I'm not an expert on the younger generations, but I do worry. I do worry about, do they know what a normal relationship should look like? And I say normal in quotes. I'm talking about, I should say healthy. What a healthy relationship should look like, whether that's a friendship, platonic friendship, or whether that's a romantic relationship. Kids don't know. A lot of adults aren't even got a handle on it. And so unless they're educated, unless they are educating themselves, you know, where are they getting their information from? Kids are getting it from other kids. They're getting it from TikTok. They're getting it from Instagram. They're getting it from the things that they view. And this is not always portraying a healthy relationship, right? I mean, my gosh, look at reality TV. I can't even watch it. I just, you know, and I know people watch it for the train wreck. But I can't help but wonder if you may see some of that as normal, as okay, as healthy, because you're seeing it over and over and over and over again. So even if it's toxic, even if it's unhealthy, they think there's some way to manage that, or it's just part and parcel of what you guys have to go through or deal with. And it's not. So we definitely have to talk and talk and talk and talk. And my kid totally was sick of me talking. He even looked at me one day and went, Mom, not every moment is a teachable moment. So that's not what the PSA says. Every moment is a teachable moment. And by golly, did I take that to heart for a while. Oh, this is interesting. Crystal says one of the biggest things we were taught to look for lost children in the store is to get the parent to the only proper exit from the store, as it's easy to change people's clothes halfway through. Yeah, I've even heard of people dyeing kids' hairs real quick or putting a wig on them or something like that in the bathroom before they, exit the store with them. So that can be, I mean, that's frightening. Like I said, these predators, they're smart. They're so smart. They're devious. They're manipulative because they have to be. And so they're going to do whatever it takes to get to their goal. Do not underestimate them. That is the biggest thing. Do I want to believe that most of the people that I come in contact with, let's say here on YouTube, are who they say they are? 100%. Until you show me differently, I will assume you are who you say you are, with a grain of salt. Okay? I'm always going to have my slightly skeptic hat on, just because I have to be. You have to be on the lookout for that manipulative behavior, for those inconsistencies in the information, for any droppage of that mask. Oh my gosh. Hi, Blojo, by the way. Hello. It is good to see you again. She says that well, actually, I don't know if you're he or she. I'm not going to make that assumption, but went out to breakfast for a first date. At the end, was thanked for not being a serial killer. That was awkward. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. It's, I'm not gonna shame and I'm not gonna judge anybody who goes back to somebody's place, whether it's your own or the other person's, after a first date. You do what you do. My biggest thing is just stay safe. And it can be very dangerous. Now, granted, it's going to depend. Have you talked to this person before? Have you built a rapport? Have you been, looking for these things? Are you educated in order to look for these things? But it can be risky. Can certainly be risky. So I encourage anybody who is going to do online dating to meet first in a public place. And if you're uncomfortable, meeting at night, meet for breakfast, meet for lunch on the weekend, meet for coffee. These are great coffee dates, or just meeting for a drink. And you don't even have to drink an alcoholic. You can have a Coke or whatever, right? It shortens it. I never meet for dinner. I'll never meet for a meal first date. I don't want to be locked in that long, and I don't want to have to make an excuse halfway through, because I would feel so bad just going, you know what, this isn't going well, and leaving like halfway through a meal. That to me is just the ultimate awkward, and I would just feel so bad for the other person, because they may be the nicest person in the universe, but it just isn't working. It just isn't clicking. And it's, yeah, you can shorten a drink or coffee. %, Blowjill says it depends on if they're being shown what a healthy relationship looks like at home. And this is it. And that's why I put this. It's like, if you know anyone, because maybe you're an aunt and uncle and you've got a niece or nephew and their home life isn't the greatest, and what they're seeing isn't the healthiest of relationships. I know it gets a little tricky. You don't want to step on parents' toes or have your rule in place of their rule. But I don't think there's anything wrong in talking. Take your niece out for a coffee or for a Coke, or a day of shopping or whatever it is, and just talking to them and talking about their relationships and their friendships. Because everything that we apply to a friendship 100% applies to a romantic relationship in terms of a healthy relationship. And so you can start right there. Granted, it's going to depend on your relationship with your brother or sister-in-law or in-laws, in terms of talking to the kids. And I know it's not always easy. It's not always a smooth way, depending on how those people are. But it's really critical for kids to know that they have somebody to talk to, and particularly if it's not their own parents, because not everybody feels comfortable talking to a parent. Not everyone, subject to, it used to be go to a policeman type of thing. Yeah, police are kind of on the You go to a school counselor, go to a trusted teacher, go to a religious leader. These are all people we put up in society as our protectors, and they're supposed to be the ones that we can come to. But if you have anybody in your life, whether it's a friend or a relative, and you can develop a good relationship with them, and you can be that person for them to say, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. Perfect example is I knew home life of one of my kids' friends was not good. And he'd end up at our place sometimes. And although he himself never came to me directly, he would come to me through his son. And he always knew that he had a place. As long as his parents knew where he was and it was okay that he was here, he had a place that he could come crash. I could take them both to school in the morning. That was okay. It's not just knowing somebody else is there. A lot of times, these kids, they don't have anybody else, or the adults who they don't have close friendships or any relatives who are filling that sort of role. And these are the most vulnerable of the population. They're the easiest targets because they're looking to fill that void. We all need emotional connection as human beings. It's why we're here. It's why we are in other chats and actually talk to people. Because we need that sort of connection. Human beings we're not meant to be isolated and totally alone. I'm not saying if that's what you choose to do and that's how you are happy, or you believe that you are happy, I'm not judging. Okay? So don't take it as that. But human connection is very healthy for, I think, the mind and the soul. I'm just checking my notes real quick. Again, some red flags for kids. If you notice an increase in their online time, which these days, I'm not sure if it's possible to notice that because they seem to always either have the computer or a phone in their hand. But if you do notice an increase with that, that could be an indication that they have met somebody, and to inquire. And, your first inquiry doesn't need to be, show me your device, right? Part and parcel of that and building the trust with your child so that they will come to you if something goes wrong is just chatting. Who are you chatting with online? Who are your friends? I popped down when my son was gaming and I could hear him, or when we just had the chat, and I'd be like, who's in your chat? Who who have you met? Where have you met them? Where are they from? Because the kids from all over, right? And just talking about it just in a friendly atmosphere. And there was one time, and this is, I think, a little bit earlier on, when he got on Voice. And he's like, oh, there's so-and-so, this kid's from New York, and I met this kid, and they're from Canada, and I met, this kid, and I was like, oh, how old are they? And they're like, oh, so-and-so was 10, younger than he was at the time, and so-and-so's 12 and 15, and a lot of them are right now. And then there's Tony, who's 34, and I was like, whoa, T, time out. Who? Oh, yeah, he's whatever. And he's just like, you guys got to get into this sort of trade because there's so much money in it, and da da da. And he's giving us a lot of life tips on this, that, or the other. And I go, whoa. He may have the best of intentions, and he may be the greatest guy in the universe. But there are all kinds of online forums that you can be at. Why are you choosing to be in a forum where most of the kids are going to be under 18? Half your age, less than half your age. That's a big red flag. And so I've been prohibited from being in that chat, being on that platform, within the platform. I forget what that's called. Server. There's server within that. Discord. There's another one that you can meet at and chat with. I don't know a whole lot about it. I've only been on it once or twice, and Facebook, of course. I didn't ban him from it right away, but I talked to him about it. And I said, okay, well, what's he say? How does he interact with you? How does he interact with the other kids? Is there somebody in particular that he chats with a lot on there? Because it was usually, you get the same kids who got online with each other, night after night. Once you kind of, you're developing relationships, developing gaming styles, especially if you're on the same team in a first person shooter game or something like that. What do you think he gets out of this? And this is a question I posed to my son. And he said, let's talk about that. And, it wasn't too much after that he kind of found a new group that he fell in with that didn't have somebody who at least was out and outright saying that they were older. Sorry, I'm just going through the chat real quick because I've thank you, Ned. Thank you for putting up that. I am going to remove this trigger banner right now because it is starting to give me a headache because my mind is seeing it going across the bottom. Did I take it away? No, I didn't. Hide. There we go. Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't know what a healthy relationship is, if you don't know what to look for, how do you ever have a hope of protecting yourself? If the kids aren't learning this sort of information, we cannot rely on schools to be giving this information. I have spoken with some parents who said, well, isn't this what they talk about in school? I know they have, like here they have Project Charlie, and that's all about drugs. And then they've got your sex education, which is your talk about in 4th grade about how your body's changing. Talk about in 6th grade exactly what sexual intercourse is and what the female and male body parts look like. And then there's 9th grade. They've got, well, for us, it used to be 9 weeks, a semester of sex education. And here I've heard other people say it's like a 2-week stint that they do. And the information that they're given, it varies from state to state, you know, and it can be laughable, absolutely laughable as to the type of information that they're given. Drugs are bad, don't have sex. There you go. I've spoken to very few people where part and parcel with any of these courses is, what does a healthy relationship look like? You know, I don't know about you guys, but when my kid was growing up, I mean, I talked to him about, what does a good friend look like? Because I wasn't taught how to be a good friend. I mean, I was taught how to be a good person in general, which is important. And those are things that are translatable to friendships, to any relationship, yes. But it's not all just about being a good person in terms of having a healthy relationship. Because if that other person isn't, guess what? You got problems. So being a good friend, knowing what a good friend looks like, and giving specific examples, I think that that's important. So-and-so invited everybody but me to the party. So-and-so talks to me at school, but they don't want to talk to me anywhere else. You know, just individual situations. And so this is why I tried to use every moment that I possibly could to talk about this information with my kid. And in terms of that, I think he's grown up pretty well. He didn't have an example of what a healthy relationship looked like. From 0 to 5, he had myself in an alcoholic marriage. From 5 to 10, we were living with my parents as I got back on my feet, and my dad and I fought like cats and dogs. We always have. I love him to death. He's a great person. We just see things very differently. I could not live with him. It would be really, really difficult. So, and then from 10 on, it was just him and I. Or, you know, seeing his dad occasionally, and whatever his dad's latest relationship was. So it was so critical for me to be able to, that's why I stopped dating, so that he could have a stable home where he wasn't having to worry about all these extraneous things and extra people. But because of that, it was so important to me to talk about healthy relationships and what they should be. And so if he did talk about his dad and his latest girlfriend, or what happened that weekend, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about maybe, you know, what seems off with that? What seems wrong? What should you do? How should you treat your girlfriend? And, you know, he's had 2 serious girlfriends now, and, you know, to my knowledge, and the parents have even told me that, you know, as far as they're concerned, he treats their daughter like a queen, and he's great, and he's a great boyfriend, and that's all I could ask for. Carmel, you got kicked out of sex ed because you were correcting the teacher. Do I even want to know what you were correcting him about? Oh, holy moly. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. Okay. What else did I want to talk about? We're at 7:30 now. What else did I want to talk about? Did I play all of my, except for the last one. I have one more video I wanted to play play with. But I wanted to mention one thing about kids and oh no, I have two things that I want to play. Let me play this one first because this particular one was about a kid and online gaming and how he got sucked in with online gaming and what happened to him. Again, real brief, but really hits home in terms of what we've been talking about. And this is part of a news story, so I'm only going to play part of it for you. Let me share my screen.
Video games bring children to another world, to experience new things, and even chat online with friends. But
hang on. I definitely have this. Yeah, my speed's a little high on this one.
that can leave the door open for someone with more sinister motives.
It's certainly happening more and more often.
That's what happened in Spokane to a child playing the popular game Roblox. Search warrant documents say that's how a predator began a conversation with the 9-year-old boy, a conversation that escalated for 4 months. The stranger even pretended to be the boy's pastor, further gaining his trust.
So there's a lot of different approaches they take, but always employing some kind of deception, some kind of threat, or promises of money or gifts to get that young person to open up and talk to them.
Then the conversation took an even darker turn. The stranger learned about the boy's past and threatened to shoot him, knowing one of the child's family members shot themselves. Then the predator asked the boy for nude pictures and video. The 9-year-old sent 25 naked photos and 5 videos to this stranger, who then asked the boy to introduce them to more friends. When introduced to a 9-year-old girl, search warrant documents say the predator tried the same thing. She didn't send them anything and told a school counselor who went to police.
They shouldn't be afraid to come forward when somebody is asking for these pictures, or even if they've sent these pictures. It's okay to talk to parents, school staff, or law enforcement.
Now, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office is investigating.
Okay, so this gets into an area where the groomer is asking for pictures. And at first they might be innocuous pictures. And then it might be, hey, send me a sexy picture. Send me a picture, where you're doing, like this. And then just send me a picture of you just in your bra. Or if it's a guy, oh my gosh, you're growing up so fast, what, you got muscles. Send me a picture without your top. Show me those. Yeah. I mean, flattery gets people everywhere. It can, right? If we're not protective. And it can be very, very scary for kids if they've gotten themselves into a situation where they've eventually sent either naked or in underwear pictures to somebody else. A lot of times then that predator will use those pictures as blackmail. You're mine. You're going to do what I tell you to do. If not, I'm posting these pictures everywhere. And so it becomes extremely important that we talk to our kids about sending pictures. I drilled into my son's head that you do not ever, ever, ever send a naked picture of yourself to somebody. This was when he was under 18. He's 18. I can't, prevent what he does now in regards to that. And it's not considered child porn, however, anything's on the internet, it's there forever. And, there is thankfully the group of kids that he was with, that he ended up growing up with, I think that he connected with in high school were good kids, had kind of the same ideas about adults and being wary if they wanted something from them. And there's been case after case after case where two things can happen. They've got those pictures and they're blackmailing that victim, and they will ask for more pictures and more pictures and more explicit pictures. Now maybe videos. And I want you doing this in the video. Then it can escalate even farther. And there's countless stories about this where they will use that as a means to get that child to do anything they ask. And what they ask is for more kids. So they'll bring their friends in. They'll bring an acquaintance in. And the predator then targets them. And the cycle repeats. There was an absolute heartbreaking story that I listened to, and I listened to it from the horse's mouth, from this kid who is now an adult who got sucked into this, was paid for his pictures, and he was amazed at how much he was getting for these pictures. And he's like, it's just a picture, right? I'm not sending these online. I'm sending them, through private text or whatever. They're a pervert. They want it, but they're paying me $500 for it. They're paying me $200 for a topless photo. Or they're paying me $300 to see my ass. So if your kid is coming into extra money and they don't have a job and they don't have a rich uncle who's, giving them an allowance or something, you need to start asking questions. That could be a red flag for any number of things, right? Selling drugs, having a groomer just giving them money as part of the grooming process. But it can also be this type of situation where they're being blackmailed or, being sending, pictures for money. He eventually got into business with his predator, basically, and started an OnlyFans page while he was underage and became one of the top earners. Got so many other kids involved in it. And eventually he himself became an abuser. And the cycle continued. And so he was in prison at the time that he was giving this interview, but it was powerful. And it showed just from the beginning how this happened to where he was now, sitting in prison as a sexual predator himself. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart because it didn't need to happen. But the forces that were there and the circumstances that surrounded him and the lack of knowledge that he had and the lack of guidance from parents or others in his life created this perfect storm that allowed this to happen. Hi, Brian. How are you doing this evening? I'm glad to see you. Thanks for joining us. That can be a really scary thing for a kid, knowing that they've sent something, even just risque, right? And to divulge that to an adult. So what that FBI agent said is so important, that yes, what's sent is child porn. But if you are sending it as a child because of an adult asking you to, you're not in trouble. Okay? It's the perpetrator. It's that predator. Again, it goes back to, where do we blame? The blame goes on the predator. It does not go on the victim or the ultimate survivor. And so to make sure that they understand that they will not be in trouble, whether it's with the law or with you as a parent, is incredibly important that the kid understands. And again, a lot of this, it goes back to, trust issues. If you are constantly taking information that your kid has given you and throwing it back in their face, or they're later getting in trouble for something that they've done that you only knew about because they divulged that to you, that's problematic, right? It's problematic. I always said to my son, I would give him one grace on a certain situation, depending on the severity of it, what we're talking about. But, let's use a, for instance, this didn't happen, but let's use a, for instance, if he had gone out and, he came home drunk or he came home high. One, if you needed a ride home, you got a ride home, no questions asked. Not that day. I might ask you some questions the next day, but you're not going to be in trouble for it. And so even if they had arrived home, they got their one grace. It happened again. Okay, now we got an issue. And then there's a bigger conversation, obviously, that needs to happen with that. That's how I handled my child. Different parents are going to have it, feel differently. But if they don't feel that they can come to you with important information, if they're constantly getting it thrown back in their face, they're not going to want to. And as a friend, as a relative, if you can be that person for that kid, if you know that they don't have that at home, that lifeline could make all the difference in the world. I don't have any nieces and nephews, but if one of my son's friends reached out to me, or say I did, and I said, hey, Aunt Mac, I did something. I think I'm in big trouble. I would want them to feel like they could come to me and they could trust me. Now, it gets a little trickier if you're a relative, right? Because at what point do you need to tell the parent about this? And I was always upfront with my son's friends that I want you to feel comfortable to come to me if you ever get in trouble for anything, whether it's drinking or drugs or, a sexual assault or just a predator. Feel free to come to me. But depending on what it is, we may have to talk to your parents. And I think it's important that they know that up front, that there may come a point, but that line of communication is still open. And then between the two of you, you talk and you decide what you need to do. I use kind of vague language here because there's so many things that could happen. And I know that even sometimes in the best of cases, you may have to tell the parents, knowing that it's not going to look good at home. And that would be a very, very difficult situation to be in. And I don't envy anybody who would be with that. Ned, I completely understand what you're saying in terms of, wishing you had known what to look for. It just wasn't talked about. Our generation, I want to say if you are 40 or older, I sincerely doubt that a lot of this information was talked about. I mean, I talk to my friends and I'm like, even did you know what a healthy relationship is? When you started dating, did you know, even as a teenager, how do you treat your boyfriend or girlfriend? What kind of treatment do you expect out of your boyfriend or your girlfriend? They don't know anything other than they've seen. And so we have to talk to them about it. It wasn't talked about. It was, hey, protect yourself, you know. Don't do anything you don't want to do, was kind of the line that I got. And so I don't know, did any of you, does this happen to any of you? Did any of you who are 40 or older, did you have, whether it was in school or your parents, did you have people who talked to you about healthy relationships, about what to look for in terms of a predator, in terms of a manipulator, in terms of somebody who may not have your best interest at heart? Because I know very few. And so we model what we see. Yeah, it breaks my heart as well. Jody Dora says, nope, just talk about sex and reputation. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It, yeah, I still went to high school in the days where, a girl could get a reputation. And I don't know how it is these days. I don't know if somebody knows if you're having sex, if that makes a difference. But by golly, you did not want that out. Even if it was your boyfriend for 4 years or whatever, you did not want other people in school knowing that. I mean, maybe amongst some friend groups, it was okay and they talked about it, but the school at large, heck no. Kamal says, my parents never talked to me about that. Yeah. Seventh, my heart goes out to you. My heart absolutely goes out to you. You can't rape the willing. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Because what may look like willing may just be acquiescence to make sure I get through this. Right? It's going to happen whether I want it to or not. So I'm going to take the path of least resistance. And it took a while for the law to catch up with that. I mean, it used to be you had to have a sign that either you verbally said no, or that you had scratches or bruises or some sign of an injury of something that happened. But if you just accepted it, laid there and did nothing, guess what? Yeah. My heart just goes out to you for that. Also, just on a separate note, I did a whole live on male survivors, and having a son, raising a son, this was so important to me because there's even less of a want to talk about it in terms of what they go through and what's possible. I mean, I think about the male body especially, and just the physiology and being able to have an erection against your will, right? Against your conscious will, and people not understanding that. So you absolutely can rape a man. Male on male, female on male. It is possible and it does happen. And it is imperative that people understand that. Did I have anything else I needed to talk about in regards to this? I interwove a lot of what I was going to talk about here at the end with protective measures. And if you guys have anything to add in terms of red flags that I've missed or ways to protect yourself or to protect your kids, please throw it up in the chat. I am not a therapist. I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who's done a lot of research and has lived through it, both being a victim of or survivor now of SA as a child and as an adult, and raising a child to adulthood successfully. He's still alive, is gainfully employed. I feel good. I feel good. I cooked 2 days this week, guys. I consider Monday starting the week since that's the first day I cooked. Today I couldn't because I got my live. Tomorrow's family dinner. So next thing is Saturday. Shanna says, just be careful online. Absolutely. And we're going to continue the conversation just in terms of online relationships in general on Saturday with the live at 3. But I do have one more video that I want to show you. And this is called Amanda's Story. It's about Amanda when she was 13 years old and her experience with an online predator. I truly think the most powerful education to kids comes from other kids, because they are able to hear what that person went through. They're able to watch that little minute news clip it and hear what happened to that 9-year-old boy, how he got involved in it, how the relationship evolved and devolved, right? Where it ended up. They're powerful stories. And so I really, really feel, I don't know what the word that is I'm looking for, but I just think it's really important that you show kids, not just with your words, that it can happen to other kids, but give them kid testimonies. It's as good as you can get besides having their friend tell them, right? So let's listen to Amanda's story. It's only a minute or so long. Actually, this one might be a couple minutes. What speed do I have it at? I will slow it down just a tad. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
When I was 13, my mom and dad brought home our first family computer. It was something really neat that we had never had in our home before. We were excited to explore the options that we now had at our fingertips. One day, I was on the internet and came across a website that our school had set up for everyone in our grades from 6 to 8. It was an area where we were able to talk about homework, sports, and other highlights that were going on with our friends. I got really excited that everybody was coming together. We started our own chat room that we could all just talk about everything, our families, our friends, school, anything that bothered us that day. That afternoon, I got an instant message. I didn't know who the person was, so of course I asked, "Hi, who are you? How do you know us?" And they just kind of came across saying, "I'm a friend of somebody you know." Little by little, he started asking me questions about myself and I about him. He told me he was a boy from the beach, and I told him that I was from a small city. And then he told me he played football. I told him about my soccer team and how we played games every week in practice, and that my jersey number was number 5. He told me his football jersey was number 5 as well. So then we had another common bond. The more we started talking, he started asking me more questions, but I didn't think much of it. Like, what's your school colors? Mine are red and black. So of course I said, well, mine are black and silver. How neat. Those would go great together. So we just formed a great friendship, and it was really nice. Little did I know that that person on the other side of the computer screen was a grown adult. His profile had all the signs of being a 14-year-old teenager, just like we were. He played football, soccer, had friends, went to the mall, went to the beach, and surfed. Everything that we only dreamed that we could do, but we didn't live at the beach. He talked like we did. He had pictures of a younger gentleman that could have been a teenager, and he really played the game well. This stranger drove 4.5 hours and found out my routine. He knew where I lived, where I went to school. He knew when I got off the bus and when my parents went to work. He knew everything about me, even down to where my practices were for soccer and cheerleading. He would drive back and forth to learn these routines like the back of his hand. Then, one Sunday afternoon, it was a day that changed my life. My mom and I woke up to go to church like every Sunday, and we decided to have lunch and go shopping afterwards. I quickly reminded her on our way to the mall that I had to be at a babysitting job soon after, and that we couldn't be too long. After my mother and I finished lunch, we went home. I changed clothes and began to walk to my next babysitting job. As I was walking down the road, I noticed a green truck following me. Before I knew it, he stopped, rolled down his window, and asked if I was Amanda. Before I could answer, he opened the door and threw me in. I was frozen, in shock, and completely terrified. He then took me to a local hotel, where this online predator held me for hours against my will. I was brutally raped, assaulted, and I didn't know if I would ever go home again. After being held captive for 5.5 hours, this online predator dropped me off on the side of the road, where my mother and the police were waiting. The police gave chase and caught him at the end of the cul-de-sac, where they made the arrest.
Powerful. That's the only word I can have for that. I wanted to end with that one because her story is so typical. It's got so many of the elements of everything that we were talking about here, from portraying to be somebody else, flattery, talking on her level. And what I said is, don't underestimate these predators. This particular guy drove 4.5 hours. Did you catch that? He drove 4.5 hours to stalk her, to figure out what her routine is, to know when the best time to take her would be. That's dedication. And these predators are nothing if not dedicated to their cause, to getting what they want. If I was a teen hearing that from her, seeing this, that would certainly make me think twice. Because here's somebody my age, or close to my age, who's done the same thing that I've done 100 times. Been in a chat and somebody's like, yeah, oh, I'm friends with Mark, or Bob, or, pick any common name. Because that predator hits enough people, they're eventually going to have one that goes, oh, really, really? Oh, that's great. How do you know him? Oh, wonderful. How are you? Nice to meet a friend of Mark's. Unfortunately for her, it ended in the worst, terrible way. But I'm so glad that they caught the guy right away and sent him off to prison. She was lucky because, and that's hard to say, right? Because she was SA'd, but she made it out alive. And there are a lot of sexual predators who do end up going on and killing their victims, whether through accident or just that escalation in their crimes. Hi, Barbie. How you doing? It's good to see you. I haven't gotten a chance to watch your replay. Barbie was on My Other's Keeper last night, and I haven't gotten a chance to see it. But if you guys want to check that out, you get to hear her talk about her story or whatever. I don't even know what you guys talked about. Hey, Jimena, how you doing? Glad to have you here. Georgia says, fear of this kind of thing is one of the many reasons I still try to have some anonymity online. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Crystal, how was dinner? How you doing? Barbie said dinner ran late. No problem, no problem. I mean, if you guys end up on replay crew for most of it, totally fine. I'm so glad and honored. I'm always honored for all of you guys who stop in week after week, live after live. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and I 100% know that. My mission in having this channel is to try and bring you information that is going to help you, help people you know, whether you're a survivor or you are trying to not be a survivor. That's right, you're in Canada, Barbie. I keep forgetting about that. See, you're with a fellow Canadian, with Kim. Thanks, Crystal, for the trigger warning. Appreciate it. I actually did a trigger banner. You'd be so proud of me. I had one scrolling across the screen for a good portion of the thing. It is. Her story is heartbreaking, and it's amazing if you listen to the rest of it. I think she said she's 16 now, and she's dedicated her life since this happened to speaking out about it and speaking to kids and warning them about the dangers of online, how to stay safe, speaking to parents, what to look for, all of the stuff that we've talked about tonight. So within the organization that she was with, that we're making that, this is what she's wants to do, at least for this foreseeable future. And I applaud her, because I don't know how many of us would have never said anything had no one been there, had no one been home, right? She was lucky she was going to someplace that was expecting her, and they didn't arrive. So I'm sure their first reach out was to the parents, hey, where's Amanda? She was supposed to be here to babysit. What are you talking about? I dropped her off at home and out, 3 hours ago. But if she hadn't, if no one had been waiting for her, how many people just go home and live with it and feel guilt and shame that they shouldn't, that they don't have to, because that's how we're still programmed. That's what the stigma is still about. It's breaking down slowly. It's so much better than it was 20 years ago, and that's better than it was 20 years prior to that. But we still have a ways to go. And the only way that's going to happen is through education, is through talking about this. Destigmatize sexual assault. Destigmatize domestic violence. Why did you stay in that abusive relationship? He hit you once. You should have been out of there. How couldn't you see that he was emotionally manipulating you, or manipulating you just for financial gain? Kind of easy to say when you don't know anything about abuse cycles, about manipulative tactics, about gaslighting, about narcissism. We have to talk about it. And if you go back, you would be totally wasted by the end of this if you took a drink every time I said that, right? But it's where my heart and soul is, and that's why I'm here for you guys. And 100%, Crystal, easy to say about leaving if you're not in the situation. If you don't understand what is going on, if you haven't been there, don't pretend like you do. I've been in a domestically abusive situation, but not violent, not physically violent. So I don't understand that aspect of it. Theoretically, I do. In my head, I do. I have the knowledge of it. but I couldn't talk to you like Crystal Phoenix could. I didn't live that. And I think that is one of the wonderful things about all of these people who are creating different content, who are sharing their stories, because they're able to connect with an audience at a different level. And so find what speaks to you. If any of you are looking for resources on anything, please email me. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. If you want to talk, I try and be there as much as I can. There we go. There is my email. And I will 100% respond to you. It may not be the same day, kind of depends on what's going on, but I will definitely respond. And if I can't help you, if it's not something that I feel that I can be of support on, I will point you in the right direction. You know, I know enough people who, if they're not the ones, they know enough people, will get you somewhere, right? And that's why one of my future dreams is to start the SAS Foundation. I just like it. It's got a really good ring to it. To help provide money for therapy. It's so expensive, but it can be so worthwhile. And I know also you may not connect with the first therapist that you're at. So then you're out that money, right? And now you've got to do it all over again. So to be a place that can help with that, it's one of my little dreams. I got some things in the works in between. I've got you guys, I've got my daily life that I'm still doing. I would need to find a way to do this 100% of the time and pay my bills before then I could actually, start a foundation. But it's a dream. You've got to have dreams. You got to have goals, things to look forward to, and to keep you going. For me, it keeps me grounded. It keeps me out of depression, out of, deep depression. Because when I'm there, I'm just frozen. And these soul lifting types of dreams, when I remember them and remember what I'm doing, and that's why I hate canceling these lives, because even if I feel so crappy, you guys always make me feel better. Just connecting with you. Hey, William, no worries. No worries. There's always replay, but I'm just glad you stopped by. I thank each and every single one of you. Your chat is not coming up. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, I've had problems with that before. Sometimes I'll just click out of the chat and click back in, or sometimes I have to click top chat and then click live chat again. Sometimes I've just got to get off of the site and then get back into the channel. It happened to me today. I was in it and I was chatting, and then all of a sudden I'm like, the commenter, the creator, was responding to somebody. I'm like, what? That's not in my chat. It's like mine just stopped, and all of a sudden all I had were my comments. I'm like, okay, this is really weird. Yeah, arrests don't always equal justice. And, I won't go through all the numbers, but the amount of people who actually report is minuscule in comparison to the amount of people who are suspected to have actually been abused, whether adult or child. The numbers are about 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will be sexually assaulted, and about 1 in 6 males in their lifetime will be sexually assaulted. Neither one is broken down by gender. Those numbers are just male and female abusers combined. But think about that. 1 in 3. And look at the rest of the people in the chat and think about when you go to the grocery store. How many people are there? The percentage of people who have probably been sexually assaulted or will be at some point in their life. And men, when they hear these numbers, oh my gosh, they're totally shocked. If you're a survivor, a male survivor, to hear that 1 in 6, when you look around at other males, that's mind-blowing. And to people who aren't, to men who are not survivors, to hear that number, excuse my language, but they go, holy fuck. They had no clue. Because if they're not a survivor and they don't know of anybody, say in their family or their friend group who is a survivor, I guarantee you they're looking around at those people now and going, one of you at least probably has been. And most likely, yeah. You just don't know it. So the numbers are just freaky scary. Crystal says in Canada, it's 1 in 4 males and 1 in 3 females will be assaulted by the time they're 18. Yes, the numbers are higher. It's very similar in the U.S. For the under 18. They're the most vulnerable of our population. So it makes sense that the numbers are higher, percentages are higher to be assaulted. You make it to 18 and you haven't been assaulted, pat yourself on the back, congratulate you, go hug your mom and dad, whatever. You made it. You made it to 18. Now you just got to make sure you can stay safe the rest of your life. Which, it's not meant, those numbers are not meant to be downers. I know they are, but they're there as a warning to say this is reality. But through education, we can make a difference with those numbers. And I know some people are on the opposite side and they're like, it's not making any difference, because look at the numbers, they're just going up. What you need to understand is the amount of reporting. Are you looking at studies that have only done reporting figures? If so, yeah, the numbers have gone up 100% because more people are reporting. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. We have come a long way with our law enforcement in getting them to take this seriously. We've still got some work to do. There is still segments of them who believe, as Seven said, that you can't rape a man, you can't rape the willing, you don't have physical physical injury, you didn't shout out, there can't be a sexual assault. Then there are people who just have certain prejudices, whether it's against homosexuals, anybody in the LGBTQ plus community. Sorry, I got to say that slowly. I'm going to miss one of the letters. And that's, that's a really difficult thing because then you're working against the prejudice it's not that they don't believe that a sexual assault can occur or maybe even did occur. It's just they don't care. They don't care. Oh, I'm so sorry for your friend. Yeah, for boys, for underage boys being abused, children's homes, religious organizations, let's say child organizations, but something like the Boys and Girls Club or Boy Scouts of America, or those types of activities, sports, sports activities. Those are most often where you're going to see that the males have been abused, and now more and more, online. And please make no mistake. You can be sexually abused online. There does not need to be physical contact. And I know that's a hard concept for some people to understand. But it definitely, somebody's asking you to send pictures of yourself. Somebody has you in the grip emotionally, and you're doing something sexual for them that you don't want to be doing. Or depending on your age, even if you do want to be doing it, if you don't understand, if you don't have that capability, if you're manipulated, it's still a sexual assault. There does not need to be physical contact to be a sexual assault. And that's a hard concept for some people to understand. Your friend was very, very strong to come out as an adult. And it doesn't surprise me that it took to an adult to disclose. The average for people my age, okay, the average disclosure is 25 to 30 years that they wait until they disclose. Because it's how we grew up. It's what we were grown up with. It's the stigma that we were grown up with. You didn't talk about it, and who would you talk to if you did? And if you did anyone believe you? So you don't disclose. Or if you try once or twice, you give up. I have the utmost respect for any of these kids who, or adults for that matter, who disclose and disclose and disclose and disclose and shout it from the rooftops until somebody believes them. Because the strength that it takes to say, no, you're wrong. I need somebody who believes in me. And for someone to know that you are that person, what a great gift. To give them that lifeline. I would give that lifeline to somebody I barely know, just because I would have wanted it. Doesn't mean you're responsible for that person for forever on, but you can be a go-between. You can be a facilitator in giving them some initial support and getting them to where they need to be. So if somebody comes to you and discloses to you, believe in them. That's what investigation is for, validation. But we can't have skepticism be our initial reaction. Because to a survivor, that's devastating. It truly is. And the amount of people who falsely accuse is minuscule to the people it actually happened to. I know they get the loudest, they get the most attention when that happens. And it's horrible and sad that happens. And I feel awful for the people who they point the finger at. Because then the stigma on them people always kind of wonder, well, did she just retract her statement? Is she just saying that now? Is that guy really an abuser? And they may have to live with that for the rest of their lives. Tough situation, very tough situation. You're very, very brave, Seventh, for disclosing. You know, at some point, I think, because I did the male survivors video fairly early on, because I wanted everybody in the community to understand that this was inclusive, that men and women, no matter what your age, no matter what your sexual orientation, no matter what your religious bent, can be a victim. But I think in 2025, we'll probably revisit it. Might take it and take a little different of a spin on it, but it's important. It's important that people know and that people believe when it happens. You know, we're kind of working against the grain with the different stigmas. Oh my gosh, Kramal. I'm sorry, remind me, Kramal, are you in Denmark? Kramal says over here it's 49% of girls and 33% in boys. Now, is that under 18? Because you're saying girls and boys, or is that lifetime? You know, when they've had the suit against the Catholic Church, the suit against the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, they've had a suit against the Boy Scouts of America. And just like each and every one of them, Seventh, I'm so proud of you. So very proud of you for being willing to stand up and say, this happened to me too. Crystal, go take care of yourself. 100%. Get out of here. I do not want anyone to suffer through. You go deal with your go deal with you and do your mental health. You're like 4 seconds behind me, Crystal Phoenix. She said, let's not forget the Catholic churches and the suit against the Mormons. Same page, same page. Yep. But hugs, Crystal. Okay, go do your dinner and grab some hugs and get some good food and take care of your mental health. Okay. Actually, oh my gosh, it's 8:30, guys. We've been doing this for 2.5 hours. Thank you for sticking with me for that time. If you have any recommendations for future topics, things you want to see, topics I may have covered in the past, but you think it's time for a revisit or a revamp of the information, please let me know in the comments. If you are interested in sharing your story, and again, there is never an expectation that you have to share your story. No one needs to know that you are a survivor. And just because you're in here does not mean that you are a survivor. But if you do want to share your story, or you have a friend's story who has agreed and you would like to share that story, please email me. I would be happy to speak with you. This is not a Mac only show all the time. All right, just kind of how it works. Netherlands, you're in the Netherlands, you're in Holland. I gotta remember that. I don't know why I keep mixing up you and a few others who are in Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden. I just can't remember. It's not that I mix up the countries. I know where you guys are located individually. I know that they're all individual countries. I just, for some reason, have trying to get everything in order in my brain. Kamal said we had cases against the church, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, youth camps, boarding schools. Yeah. One of my other projects in the works, and I've talked about this before, and it's been put on the back burner for various reasons, but is going over some of the more well-known pedophile rings. And unfortunately, a lot of that has happened in boarding schools or children's homes. And there's some really big ones in the UK and in Ireland that I know of. Carmel, if there's any big cases that you know of that are from Holland, because I know Holland was, and I think still is, a hotbed of child pornography. In the 70s, that's where a lot of it came from, distribution-wise. Was back and forth between Holland and the U.S., and then the distribution in the 70s got going throughout the U.S. And that's one of the projects that I've got in the works. There is so much information with it, and so much intertwining with various rings within the U.S. and then how they all connected through the porn, and also through some serial killers. It's just amazing. So that's a labor of love that will more than likely be a multi-part series. I will put it on a separate day, and I will also, it'll be in a playlist on its own. Also, Holland, Belgium is worse. Yeah, Mark Dutroux, right? And the pedophile ring with the uppers of Belgium, the ruling, uppers, the ruling people. What was it called? The white parade or white Christmas parade or something like that was, I think, a big thing that happened in the 90s in Belgium, when it came out about all these pedophiles that were in positions of high power. And they really hoped that that was going to be, the spark of a huge movement and legislation and all these kind of things. And it was for kind of initial, but it fizzled out, and it's really unfortunate. Yeah, Jimmy Savile, don't even get me started on him. And that it came out afterwards publicly, but everybody knew about it who knew him, which is just what kills me. Just what kills me. So, all right, guys, I think we'll end this here for today. Please like, subscribe if you haven't. Hit the like button on your way out. Give me a couple seconds afterwards, and you can subscribe. If you happen to hit replay, you can leave a comment afterwards, or give me a couple of minutes and you can leave a comment. If you're on replay, leave a comment, please. It's what pushes this out in the algorithm. So that is the reason that we ask you to comment. And if you want to comment on somebody else's comment, woo-hee, we'll just keep it going. That's definitely one area where this channel is suffering, is comments. So I'm going to try and increase those. Yeah, Dutroux is a very small fish compared to the politicians and businessmen. Absolutely, 100%. It just was it. I don't want to speak to something. I've got a couple different things in Belgium that are crossing in my brain, and I'm not sure on each. But yeah, he was. And the evidence that he was part of a pedophile ring, and that he was potentially feeding them to the higher ups. He was convicted of very few, comparatively speaking, to assaults compared to what they think that he did, which is just amazing. No, I wasn't thinking about the person specifically. If anybody is interested in pedophile rings, because of my, activism with CSA, child sexual abuse, I will put a plug in for the Conspiracy Files. It's a channel, and the gentleman there, he also runs the Paranormal Files channel, but he is really big into exposing these people, and he has done video after video exposing these throughout the world. And he's done, I think, 2 in Belgium. I think he did one on Dutroux himself, and then he did one on the Belgium elite. He's done various ones around the US, and I have not checked on his channel recently, and so he may have one that I haven't even seen yet. But he does an excellent job, very fair, I believe anyway, in terms of the research that he does and how he presents it. He will present what the official record is, and just, the police reports, just how things went, the official line. And then he will start to bring in other evidence that shows you that, well, maybe this guy wasn't as innocent as people were making him out to believe, or that this was more serious than was actually being reported. There were other people that were in that. And so I do definitely give him a plug, and I would plug his name if I remembered it, but I don't. But the Conspiracy Files, check it out. He's got a lot of interesting ones. He did one from Michigan here about North Fox Island, which is just heartbreaking, and is one of a small piece of this whole interconnected spider web within the US in the 70s and early 80s. The pedo castles in Belgium, there you go, where they hunt kids. Yep, he did one on them. He did one on them, and he actually went to Belgium and he tried filming the castle. I think they got a drone up or something, but they weren't able to actually, get near the place. But he did a whole one on at least one of them, maybe 2. Just frightening, just absolutely frightening. There's a survivor, Anneke Lucas, and she is from Belgium, and she was sold into what she calls the network, and was in these castles. And you listen to her story. She has her own channel, her own podcast, but she's been on so many different other people's podcasts too. Anneke is just a voice for survivors and for the healing journey, and how it's not a straight line, and even when you think you kind of get to a point where you're fairly healed, something pops up and you go, whoo, guess what? Got to revisit that issue, or that's a new one, right? Moni, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. How are you? Echo, when did you sneak in? Somebody is saying Tiff. Where's Tiff? I'm not even seeing her. Oh, you snuck in too. Hey, Tiff. Welcome. Glad to see you guys. Moni, so good to see you. Email me sometime with an update. I'd love to know how you're doing. Okay, girl. I was thinking about you. And Crystal M, I was thinking about you today, and I was going to email you this morning. I even had my Surviving Together email pulled up, And this headache just said, nope, you're going back to bed. So oh, you took your granddaughter, I'm assuming you took your granddaughter to go to an appointment. Thank you, Carmel, for putting up Annika Luque's name, because yeah, the spelling of her first name is kind of different. People might not know that. Oh, thank you, Ned. Here, Ned's put a link up here to the conspiracy files. And lot of good videos. Highly recommend them. And you make up your own mind. You know, that's why I think he's very fair in what he presents, and just, you know, gives his opinion, of course, as to what he feels is the truth. But he'll also say, you know, I don't know. I don't know on this aspect. It could go this way. It could go that way. There's just not enough information one way or the other for me to make up my mind as to what was going on here. So that's why I like him. So two things I'll leave you with. Just a little funny note in regards to kids. I was watching a little compilation the other morning, and one of them said that the daughter was like, no, I don't want to eat dinner. I don't want to eat dinner. And the mom goes, it's not dinner. They're just really big snacks. And she's like, ooh, goody. I love snacks. And the mom was so, follow me for more tips to trick your children. It really made me laugh. And then the other one was, this kid was complaining about not wanting to go to school. And why do I have to go to school? I don't want to go to school. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And the mom's like, because it's the law. You have to go to school. Like, if you don't go to school, I'll go to jail. It's against the law. And the kid looked at the mom and went, I'll visit you. Those two made me laugh. So after dealing with a really harsh subject and talking about some not happy things, I want to leave you with just a little bit of a laugh. But also remember, surviving together, never alone. You are worthy. You are valuable, and you are loved for who you are, just the way you are. So, mwah, hugs and love for me. I am going to kill the live, but I'm going to put down the counter for the stream. So if you guys want to chat for a little bit longer, you'll be able to before I actually end the stream. I have yet to figure out how to do a video for the outro, so you're just going to see the 30-second countdown. It's the best I can do at the moment, but it is definitely on my projects list to have a separate outro that might be a minute or so long that will give you guys a little bit more time to chat. All right. I will see you on Saturday for more talk about online relationships, but in the platonic sense. So till then, bye guys.